Hello, everyone. It's Monday. It's Monday afternoon. I get disorientated when it's so like not doing it on a normal day because we normally I do this on a Sunday at 2 p.m. But it's Monday afternoon. It's now 3 o'clock in the UK, which is about 10 in the evening in Manila. I hope some of you are still up and joining us live because I know it's a weekday, but hopefully, you're still there. Yeah, welcome to another episode of Ask the Drummer. Today's guest is a very talented young musician from Liverpool. I mean, I don't know what it is about Liverpool, but they're just full of all these young, amazing musicians there. I mean, I'm going to ask him later in the show what is it about that place. But yeah, I first saw him and this band supporting Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band in August, and they were absolutely amazing. So, my dear friends, please welcome Matthew Phillips. Yay! Sorry, I couldn't find my mouse, so I'm like, where's the mouse? Where's the mouse? How are you? How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah,
Are you
thanks for
okay?
having me.
Yeah, like I said there, I mean, you are from Liverpool, right? You're
Yeah, from Liverpool.
Yeah, from Liverpool.
Yeah.
So, what is it about Liverpool?
Uh, I think maybe it's the melting pot thing. I know that gets thrown around a lot, with it being a port. It's not really functioning port anymore, but um, at least the reason for like the Beatles or that Mersey
Yeah,
beat stuff
yeah,
was that there was so much import and export of like culture as well as like physical item, um,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that you end up with loads of different meetings and happenings and things that happen only because there's so many different groups of people meeting. And
yeah.
even now, like um, with it
It's
being such a destination for students and tourists, and I think you end up with
yeah,
a
because
mad
it
mix of
carried
people. Yeah,
on with all these young people. I mean, the young bands. I mean, there's so many young bands in Liverpool. Like every night there'll be gigs,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
there'll be
Posh
like
cake somewhere.
loads.
Yeah,
It's so vibrant, and there are loads of all these young musicians with their guitars or drums or like
yeah, and it's
yeah
really inspirational to be around that as well. Like
yeah
it actually
yeah
gives you a bit of a buzz walking around town and seeing people that you know and people who are in like really good bands just bouncing around with a guitar on the back. You go, oh my god, that's like that's not like it's cool seeing people around. I think the other thing is that there's especially like post Beatles, there was a lot of rehearsal places set up, um,
oh all
and
right
there's a good healthy amount of practice spaces that are accessible, you know,
yeah yeah
venues and
oh,
stuff, small venues. So you end up with like a good grassroots.
yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. That's very good actually answer because I always ask people like from Liverpool, what is it about it? And sometimes maybe it's in the water or something.
Yeah, it's just the immense pressure to do better than the other bands.
Well, before we actually continue, Aiden said the sound and vision are great, and Aiden is my tech support, so that's good when it's sound and vision are great.
Cool.
So, welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 90 is all about you, Matthew Phillips. So, we've established that you are actually from Liverpool. So, you're born and bred in Liverpool.
Born and bred, yeah,
Yeah.
in the
What was it
muddy
like?
streets of Garston.
Oh, so what was it like when you were growing up? Especially so like the music scene. Are you always is there always like music when you were growing up?
Yeah, I'm really grateful to have um, supportive parents because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do any of it without the grounding that I got given.
Yeah,
Um, so they were they were really good about exposing us, me and my siblings. I mean, to like all different styles of music and taking us to concerts and gigs, classical concerts and stuff. Um,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is like
yeah,
where I kind of got my start. Uh, and I started going to like a Saturday morning music school thing.
yeah, yeah,
I was about 6 or 7 that we all came through. And
yeah.
so
Well,
there I got exposed to like classical and jazz and stuff, which is like my background rather than
yeah, yeah.
because I ended
Well,
up getting
I have met your parents, and they're
yeah,
really lovely, and I can tell that they're very supportive of what you're doing. But are they also like in a were they in the band before, or so like they're just into classical music, or I mean,
no,
they
no.
are into rock music as well, or like
Well,
pop music?
they're both uh, they're both like metalheads, really. My mum's not a metalhead, but my dad was.
Oh, right. Oh,
So that's like their background. So like when we
yeah.
were at home, I remember the first CD I remember wanting to put on was UFO.
The band
Um,
UFO.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
band UFO, and like my dad is a massive Rush fan, so
Oh, wow.
into that. My dad was in like a band or two when he was younger, and my mum plays the piano.
Oh,
She had
wow.
piano lessons when she was younger, so
Yeah,
I've been quite
yeah,
fortunate to have that background. Uh,
yeah. Any of your siblings in the band as well, or they also do they play instruments and
yeah, no bands, but they play
oh,
classical
classical?
instruments. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're actually before I ask you about how you got into drumming, so your orientation is more into sort of like classical instruments, or
yeah,
what's the first instrument that you learned?
that I learned.
That's like yeah.
Um, I had violin lessons for a little while when I was about 6 or 7, and then one day someone sat on the violin, and I didn't have any more violin lessons after that. Uh, so then I ended up picking the cello after that.
So that's your first
Pretty
sort of
much,
like
yeah. But I ended up starting playing the drums around the same time. So I was about
ah,
7, 8, 9, somewhere
that's
around
really
then.
young.
Yeah,
That's very
I think
young.
again, it's just like, especially because I'm a younger sibling. I've got 2 older siblings, so they were both already learning music at the time. So
Yeah.
there was already those avenues for me to have music lessons or whatever, and my parents again very thankful that they
Yeah. Yeah.
could do that for me. So
So you're playing you're learning how to play the cello, and so like more or less the same time learning how to play the drums. Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
right?
Well, I got given a drum set for Christmas. Um,
Oh,
that my
wow.
yeah, that my mum and dad had bought off a neighbour who was gonna get rid of it,
Oh, I
selling it.
see.
So um, and so we had that in our house for a few years, and I didn't really have any lessons or anything until when I was about 16, maybe. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so I
yeah.
kind of just taught myself. I wasn't very good, and then I started having some lessons, and then I got all right.
But why? Which one are you sort of like more comfortable, or because I might say like because this is as the drummer. I mean, what really got you into drumming?
Um, probably the music that I was exposed to, like my dad, basically. Um, like I said, he's a big Rush fan, so Neil Peart
Yeah,
is like
yeah,
a
yeah,
hero, you know. Um, and I don't know if you've ever watched like a Rush live
yeah.
concert.
Um, I've only seen once because he's the drummer with loads of sort like
Loads of
surrounded with
drummers. Yeah, yeah,
toys.
yeah. Which immediately is like appealing
Yeah,
to like a 10-year-old, you know.
yeah,
Um, but he writes a drum solo for every tour, which is like a really nice choreographed, um, really beautiful drum solo.
yeah, yeah,
But that ends up on the concert DVD or video. So I've watched those loads of times growing up.
yeah,
Um, so found that style of drumming really inspirational, and then ended up getting into like Stuart Copeland and other
yeah,
drummers like more melodic style um, drumming.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's so like more. I mean, because of your background, it's all like classical music. It's almost like the classical sort of like side
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
drumming.
yeah. That's what I think. I think so.
Yeah.
Um, Especially, my dad showed me that album called The Rhythmatist, Stuart Copeland one.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
just like
yeah.
a percussion drum album that he made in some African country at some time during the 80s. And I remember sort of listening to that a few times, going, "Wow, this is boss." You know? Um, yeah.
So, which one? I mean, I've asked this earlier. Which one are you more comfortable, sort of like playing? I said the cello or the drums, or both?
Um, I well now I hope both, because I kind of split my time working professionally on both now. So, but growing up, it sort of flipped back and forth, um, where there's things that I wanted to play on the drums that I didn't have the technical ability to do, so
Ah,
I felt more comfortable on the cello. And then there would have been
yeah,
times where there was things that I wanted to play on the cello that I couldn't play, but I was having a really good time on the drums. So, and I kind of flipped back and forth between them.
yeah, yeah.
But now I'm kind of okay with both.
Okay, with both. Because you are sort of like two bands, and one of the bands you played cello, and then the other band you actually play the drums for.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like,
yeah, yeah.
But before we continue, I just want to say hello to Boying Reyes. Boying is actually one of the legendary drummers in Manila. So he's sorry, sorry, Boying. He's watching from Manila. Hello, Boying. So
Cool.
yeah. So you've sort of like learned all this, like the drums and the cello. But what's your can I just ask you which like the first band did you play cello or did you play drum for your sort of like first? What was your first band?
Um, Really, the first band I've ever been in is Brighton. But I
Okay,
mean,
yeah. So no
I was in
school, so like
Astles. I've been in Astles um for 7, 8 years now,
yeah, yeah.
which I play cello in. Um, but I wasn't in any bands in school.
Oh, okay. So you're
I was
learning all this all like instruments, right? So like no, but you didn't so like form a band when you're
no bands, no.
so
Mostly because I was really shy, just shy, and there wasn't. I didn't really know many other people my own age who were playing
yeah, yeah.
music that weren't also in bands already. Um,
Ah, okay. Yeah. So you said you were in Astles for 7 years, but Brighttown was only I don't know if because I saw Brighttown for the first time
mhm.
in 2021, and you supported Michael Head in the Red Elastic Band at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Arts. But the one thing that I really noticed from that is when as soon as he came on stage is Tom Caulfield
Mm,
because I know Tom is a member of the Beach Fuzz.
yeah,
so, so it's like when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that's. that's Tom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so when did the Brighttown actually start?
Um, in its sort of current iteration, it started around 2020, summer of
Ah,
2020.
yeah,
When that was when I joined, and then, until then, there'd been like a few practices with some other drummers that they'd been in touch with, and it didn't work out for like whatever reason.
yeah.
Because I already knew Tom and Jay through separate recording projects, and like I played cello with Jay a couple of times as well.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was like lockdown time, and they got in touch and they were like, we're gonna have a go at doing this band thing. If you want to come and play
So how
drums
did you
for like
how did
one
it
day.
work out? Because it's the COVID year. It's like 2020. It's like lockdown. Nobody was all like seeing anyone. So how did it work out with you and the band? I mean, how did you practice, or how did you
Right,
even
yeah.
prepare for the
Um,
for the gigs?
there wasn't really much. There was like a few practices because um, Tom had written like a few tunes and got them really really ready and tight to record for an EP. So I think I kind of first got in touch with them around April 2020,
Oh, 2020. Yeah. Yeah.
April May, um, and by September, because I was going back to uni at that point, I'd come home because of COVID, but I was going back to uni in September.
Yeah.
Um, so between April and late August, we practiced 6 tunes or whatever, and recorded them in the
Yeah.
practice room. And then that became the EP that came out in 2021.
Yeah. Was there like a physical copy of that EP, or is it just like download?
Yeah, there's a few CDs knocking around. I think there's
Oh, is there? Because
there's
yeah.
maybe a handful
Oh,
left in our
because
practice room.
I haven't like seen it. I checked Bandcamp, and there's only like download on
Downloads. Yeah, to be honest,
one.
we were flogging them at gigs, and I think we've almost sold them all. But I'll keep one back for you
Oh, really? That's really
next time I see you.
yeah. Oh, that's really good. Because yeah, I was all like, when I saw Tom on that stage, and I think I remember. I don't know if you know Peter Kevan.
Yeah,
Peter Kevin. Yeah, yeah. I think I remember like that. I know him. I was so like, I know that guy. And then he like came to me. It's the Beach Fuzz. When I saw him with Nathaniel and with Phil
yeah,
Murphy as well.
yeah, yeah,
Brighttown. Originally, you also had Matty Murphy,
yeah, yeah,
who is part of the talented Murphy brothers.
yeah, yeah.
But now he's in the Lathams, isn't he?
Yeah, he's,
So
he's rocking in the lavums.
he's
Yeah.
what? Yes.
Mhm.
How did you get the name? Where did the name Brighttown come from?
Uh, I kind of know it was Tom's idea. Really, it's a literary reference, but I
Oh,
don't know what book. He's really
okay.
well read, and I'm not. So uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's. I'm not sure. Whoever wrote
We've got
Into the
like yeah.
Jest, maybe David Foster Wallace. I don't know. Um, but I think it was just one of them. He was like reading a book, and it popped out, and he went, "Oh,
It's
it's a good name."
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good name for a band or something. Was
yeah.
the arts club gig, was that your first gig, or have you been
That was
gigging
the
before? Oh, the second one, yeah,
second gig. So
yeah.
the first gig was the night before in the Jacaranda.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was that like? Because this is like your first proper band. So what was it like for you playing drums? So like in front of all these people, like, were you nervous or?
I, it was it was so nerve wracking that I don't really remember much of it now. I remember being, I remember going backstage, um, and I kind of remember finishing the gig, but all the bits in between,
Oh
I've got no recollection of because even the night before playing in the Jacaranda, and the Jack was full, and that's about 100 heads or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in the Olympia, that was like, was it like 1,200,
It
something like
was
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was a bit mad. Um, but we got through it, and I've seen some of the videos from that gig, and I was playing everything twice as fast as it should be. So
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask, are you a Mickhead fan?
I'm a huge Mickhead fan.
So what was it like when you were told that okay, Bright Town are gonna be supporting Michael Ladd in the Red Elastic Band?
It was just like it was a bit surreal, really. Um, for it to be the second gig as well. Um, at the time, it was so daunting and a bit scary, really. Uh,
Yeah.
that I feel like we all disassociated a little bit from it, and only now can like appreciate that. Yeah, it was like a really, really, really boss opportunity to have, and
Yeah. Well, I think Mickhead is really good like that. That he wants to get local, young musician, local young
yeah,
bands to
yeah, yeah,
support, to support him.
yeah. And when you talk to him, he's always got his. You can tell he's got his ear to the ground. You know what I mean? Because he mentions other bands when you're
Yeah.
chatting to him. It's not like he doesn't know who everyone is. You know?
Yeah. And do you already know? I mean, obviously the Murphy brothers because Matty's in, or he was in the band at the time. But do you already know like Nathaniel
No,
and?
so I kind of knew who Nat was because of the Peach Fuzz, but I'd never met him. Same with Phil and Danny, really.
Oh, okay,
I'd never met
yeah.
them, and I'd never really met. I'd never met Matty before joining the band. Uh,
Oh, right. Yeah,
which is
yeah.
funny because like we only live down the road from each other, and we've got all these mutual connections and stuff. But um,
Because I thought it was all like you're all in like this community, or like all these, all like this young, like the Peach
yeah, yeah.
Fuzz.
Well, the funny thing is that everyone else sort of was in that community because they all knew each other, but I was a relative outsider to that. Um,
You're really shy and yeah.
Shy, and I'd mostly spent my time in Birkenhead, you know,
Oh,
with pistols. So
oh, I see.
on that side of things,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
all the Eggy Records stuff, that was like where I was hanging out. So didn't really
yeah.
know anyone on this side of the water really.
So it's so like, can you just sort of like tell us how did it actually get to? Because you said that James was sort of like you were in, or you did a project together where you played cello.
Yeah,
But do they know that you can play drums and ask you to sort of like play for them, or
yeah,
even though they know that you're actually in Astles and you play cello in Astles
cello,
and
yeah.
really, yeah, and not really drums. So
Um,
how did it? So like, how did it come about?
so yeah, I mean, it's one of them. It's like a little series of pinpoint connections that all lead to this. So I went for a jam in someone's garage once when I was about 15, and Tom was playing the bass.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so I met him there, and we stayed in touch. Um, Like there was never a gig that happened out of that. There was just like one jam one afternoon. Um, so then I stayed in touch with Tom, and then a few years later, uh, he was at Lipper, and
Oh
they were
yeah,
doing
yeah,
a recording.
yeah.
Um, so I played drums on a track that they'd recorded, which is where I met Jay.
All right.
I was about 17 or something at the time, and they were in uni.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then again, a couple of years later, Jay was in another band called Spares,
Oh,
who are
okay.
now, well, a couple of the members are now Generation, if you know them.
No, no, I
So
don't know.
Jay was in a band called Spares, and
Yeah,
some connection had happened where they'd got their photographs taken by a photographer, portraits. And as part of like the gallery opening, the photographer wanted Jay to sing a few songs. So Jay got in touch with me and said, "Don't you play the cello? Do you want to come and like play some covers and a couple of originals with me in this art gallery?" Um, so I did that. So it's all these like little meetings that keep the fire going
yeah, yeah, yeah.
between us all, and then you know I go to uni, and then a couple of years later, I get a message off Jay.
It's-
Saying, all right, lads, do you want to come play drums in a band?
But they didn't ask you to play the cello in Bright Town.
No,
They
no.
wanted you to play the drums.
They want me to play the drums, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But it's come in handy playing the cello because we've done some acoustic gigs um, and especially for like the recordings, I've done quite a bit of strings work on that,
yeah, yeah,
and it's just convenient to do it in house. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yes. Well, now we're gonna sort like talk about Astles because
Hmm.
I didn't realize that you're actually in Astles a lot longer than you were in Bright Town.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. um. Well, have you played drums in Astles or just cello?
Uh, on some early recordings,
Yeah,
some of the early like I think it was a second or first EP maybe.
yeah,
I
yeah.
played drums on a few of them, and like quite recently I've played drums, but I don't think I've ever played drums for an Astles gig. There was
Oh,
talk of me doing it once,
yeah,
um, but it's mostly been Harry Hanford
yeah.
from.
Well, I think it's so like in a way it's good to have you there. So like because you know how to play the drums, and just in case like
Yeah,
doing
and I know
live
the
gigs,
tunes.
and
Yeah,
and yeah, and and you can play the cello or the drums in case the drummer is not there, then you
yeah,
can actually sort of like do it.
yeah.
Um,
I've been close to filling in on like an emergency before, but don't know, some other solution has appeared where
yeah, yeah.
I don't have to do that.
And again, because I remember, I remember sort of like seeing Astle supporting Mick Head last year,
Oh,
and is,
in
is that
Leeds,
um no, I think it was it Nottingham. No, not Nottingham.
Sheffield, maybe
Sheffield. Yeah, yeah, I think Sheffield.
one of
Because
them.
I remember so like I've seen Astles like Daniel Astles supporting Mick Head on his own, just a solo,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then the next time he's in he's sort of like got a full band with him. And then I saw you and I thought, I know him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. I was like, I know him, but I'm sure he's not a
I'm
he's
sure he's
not a
not
cello
jealous. Yeah,
player.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah,
yeah. That was again, that was an amazing gig. It was all like,
that was such a good gig.
yeah,
That
yeah,
that venue, the social club, was just
yeah.
awesome.
Crooks Social Club, I think
Coke
it's
Social
called.
Club, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
in
my god, it's
Sheffield.
like something. It's just been
Yeah.
like transported from the 70s. It's so cool.
Well, Do you know? Well, now that you know, sort of like Phil Murphy and everything. So,
Yeah, yeah.
do you actually sort of like talk drum talk, or do you talk to each other about like do you get tips from each other, or even the drummer of Astors? Do you sort of like sometimes
Yeah,
say, oh,
me,
do
me and Phil have geeked out a few times about stuff. Whenever we've just been chatting. Um, there's been a couple of times when we've like crossed paths in practice rooms and spoke a little bit about like jazz drumming or whatever, those kind of things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, me and Harry again. It's geeking out about
Is
like, oh, have you
it?
seen Leave on Helm? You know. Yeah.
Well, what about the drum kit? Like when you supported McCad,
Mm,
it's I think it's Phil's drum kit that you
yeah,
use.
it's Phil's Ludwig. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty.
Um, what's because I sort of like I've started to like asking drummers about this, especially with sort of like if it's not just one band on stage, if it's like say two or three, and
Mm.
they're using just the same one. How do you sort of like adjust it, or is it just a standard setup that you can just play any kind of a drum kit?
Um, it's. I mean, 99% of people play like almost the same sizes of drums, like 22, a 16, a 12, or a 13 toms. I mean, 22 kick. And they'll have three stands for cymbals um, and yeah, you kind of adapt to it. It's not as comfortable as playing your own kit and setting them up in your own way because everyone's got
Yeah.
their own slightly different body dynamics and whatever that makes it comfortable to play. Um,
But you
it's
sort of
it's
like
it's a bit of a faux pas to start moving things around actually. Um, if you're not if it's
the
not your
owner,
if you're
if
not
it's not your kit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you start like change things around and lowering and higher the cymbals and like changing the stool and stuff, that's a bit like it's a little bit frowned upon.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, or if you're gonna do it, put it back. You know,
Oh, oh, wow.
it's a
So
bit of
are
a
you,
compromise, really. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a compromise.
yeah, yeah. But I've seen sometimes I've seen drummers carry their own I don't know, maybe a snare, and then
Snare, yeah,
add it to the what's already there and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. So do you
yeah.
sometimes do that, or
That's kind of like standard fare. You bring your own cymbals, you bring your own snare. Sometimes you bring your own bass drum pedal, your own sticks, obviously.
yeah,
'Cause they're
yeah,
the things
yeah.
that tend to like get worn and get broken the most often. And also like they're the most personal thing to your sound. I know for me personally, like cymbals, having my own cymbals is a big thing because I play quite not unusual, but very thin and quite dark sounds in cymbals compared to like what a lot of rock drummers play, which is like quite bright, heavy. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Does it actually change, or does it affect the music or the sound of like if you're doing one song in particular and it's not your own drum kit, um has it got like a major effect on, or this
I
like just
think it does.
pass? It's like
It probably does. You know, I think depending on what kind of music is, because at least with Bright Town and especially like the earlier stuff we were doing was a lot more folk
yeah,
oriented than
yeah,
than like a rock thing. So playing quieter is easier to play on thin cymbals, for example. A bit more
Okay.
washy. I play like a smaller drum kit. I play an 18-inch kick, um, which is a bit higher pitched and quieter. Um, so it's one of them. It's like, yes, a guitarist can probably play the same gig on a different amp,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
or if someone's playing a Telly instead of a Gibson, you know, it's not really going to make that much of a difference. But it's all those little tiny details that kind of make you sound.
Yeah, yeah. That maybe the musicians themselves can actually hear it, but if you're a fan, they're just all like in
And
front
that's
of
the
it.
thing. Once
Like,
it's been mic'd and mixed and sent out to front of house,
yeah.
does it make that much of a difference?
Can you tell us, is Phil very precious about his drum kit? Does
Yeah.
he sort of like tell you don't touch this?
Oh no, 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 he's not.
Is he
He's
all
well, at least he's not with me. Maybe he knows he can trust me. I don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, he plays a very beautiful um, Ludwig, which is in like a blue pale. It's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
What if it's your drum kit and somebody else or like using it?
nice.
Are you not like
To be honest, most drummers that you come across who we play in bands with, like we don't play with any, like no offense to punk drummers, but we don't play with any punk bands.
oh,
You know, on the
okay.
same bill, because I you know I appreciate what they can do with a drum kit, playing really hard and um, you know kicking the stands over and stuff. But we don't play with bands like that, so um, I think the only thing is that when we've headlined and I've brought my kit, sometimes it's the first time for other people playing on a smaller drum kit, like with an 18-inch kick and a 14 floor tom and a 12. So there's a bit of getting used to it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when you're on stage, you don't get as much feedback from the kick, like from where
Uh,
you sit. You don't feel it as much. You have
yeah,
to
yeah,
trust
yeah.
yourself a little bit more.
Okay. Well, well, talking about headlining, because before we came on live, I told you this, and I'm sure it's all like people on Facebook, like fans of Bright Town on Facebook, would probably notice that there's not much activity there at the moment. I mean, the last one when I looked last night, the last sort of like entry was from June,
Yeah.
so that's why I ask you. You have been a bit quiet lately, so but you haven't. You
No,
haven't, have you? You have been sort of like gigging, and there have been social media posts, but not on Facebook
not
or
on
on
Facebook.
Instagram.
Yeah. On Instagram, yeah. I think the link there is broken, maybe because they should post at the same time. But uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
glad
you
someone
and
noticed.
well, you mentioned that you're actually headlining a gig in London
Yeah,
next month. Next
yeah,
month,
yeah,
can you tell us more about that, please?
yeah, yeah. So it's at the Old Blue Last, which I think is in Shoreditch.
Okay.
Um, the Old Blue Last. It's being put on by Whispering Pines Collective. Um,
So who are the other bands that are sort of like playing with you? Are they
uh,
Liverpool as well, or?
I'm not sure. I think it'll be local bands that are supporting. I think we're just sorting that out now with a
Yeah, yeah.
promoter. But
Well, I'll have a look on
it's
Instagram
free
and
entry.
yeah, well, I'll have a look on Instagram and sort of like see if I could get a link
Yeah,
for it
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
post it on the Ask the Drummer page,
Mhm.
or maybe if you could tell some of your other band members as
Yeah,
well, figure out what's wrong with the with the
yeah, yeah,
auto link from Instagram to
yeah.
Facebook. What about Astles? Any sort of like gigs coming up?
I mean, there are Astles gigs in the pipeline. I play less of them these days, just because it's hard enough getting um, the five of them around
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all of the instruments they've got already. So throw me in the mix with a cello. Sometimes there just isn't room for me in the car, but there is one happening. I'm going to say the 8th of December
All
at
right.
the Liverpool Philharmonic
Oh wow.
with
It's,
um, it's Astles and the Balloon Moon Orchestra. So there'll be like full string section,
yeah, yeah.
harp. There'll be a harp, uh,
Wow.
full extravaganza.
Yeah.
So that's being put on with Bed and Brecky.
Well, the
It's been
Philharmonic is,
Philharmonic.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really nice venue. I
yeah,
remember you didn't play with them when they were at the what's it called, Future Yard, when they
yeah,
did the Yawn Fest. You weren't there, were you?
yeah.
Were,
I think there was a Bright Town gig the same day, maybe.
oh, I
Yeah.
see. So how do you handle that? Because you're in both bands. So if there's like a clash like that, there's a Bright Town and the Astles. I mean, do you have like what's your priority or something? And-
Now Bright Town tends to take precedent, um, just because. I mean, I play drums in that band. It's a lot easier to do a gig without drums than cello. Do you know what I mean? Um, but I still do as many Astles things. I tend to be involved more with recording now with Astles.
oh,
Um,
instead
do a
of
lot
the
of string
live sort of
arranging for that,
gig.
and
Yeah, yeah,
um, but yeah, but I still do as many as I can.
yeah. So I think when you played acoustic at what's it called, that record shop in Liverpool, you did sort of like
Oh, phase one.
phase one. Well, I think I remember. I don't know if this was right, but I remember you played acoustic there with Bright Town,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you had to leave straight away because you're playing the cello with Astles on the same night or something. Was that?
yeah. Oh,
Or
was
is
it?
it with another
It was
sort of
another
like?
gig. It was like a jazz gig over on another side of town that I was playing cello on.
Oh,
Um,
right. God, you've been
Frederick.
really busy.
Yeah, yeah. But it's funny. Sometimes I'll go like, it's the thing about having a freelance career, isn't it? You'll have a week where you do nothing, and then a week where I end up sleeping about 5 hours
God,
and eating
yeah.
30 Tesco meal deals. This is
They're nice actually. I do like Tesco meal
I
deals.
love Tesco meal deals. I'm living off those at this point, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they're really good. I mean, I always get that on my way to work because that will be sort of like me. My lunch for sort of like work
Yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah,
Tesco meal
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
So, I suppose it's a lot easier to sort of like carrying the cello than carrying a full drum kit or something.
Mm,
It's like with you.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Imagine
At
if you
least
had
I
to
can do
sort of
that
like,
sort of by myself on the bus or whatever, on the train. But you can't really do drums on a train. It's not.
no. You've got to have your own car. So, like, if you've got
Yeah,
or a van car, a
or a
van,
van. Yeah,
van. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, I was gonna ask. Um, I mean, I've said that you've been so busy, but when you're not playing the cello or when you're not drumming, what
Hmm.
actually keeps you busy?
Uh, tidying up. No. um, I don't know. I mean, it's one of them. When I'm not kind of gigging or
Do you
doing,
go to gigs a lot? Like
yeah,
watching other bands?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to
You
see
do?
First Aid Kit tonight. Um,
All right.
yeah. Uh, I don't know. Tend to just chill out,
You
stare at
just
the
chill,
wall for a
yeah,
few
and
hours or
rest.
something.
You need to rest so that when you have these days when you're playing, one gig after another on
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
same
You've
day.
got a bit of fortitude.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I like walking. I walk a lot.
Oh, right. No,
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, yeah. It's so like exercise and things.
yeah.
But when you go to a gig and you see the drummer,
Mm,
or do you actually like look at the drummer when you go to a gig, or is it just like the
yeah.
whole?
I tend to spend about 90% of the gig
Yeah, just
watching the
so like.
drummer. I don't know what it is. I think it's the same. Most musicians tend to watch their own instrument or like pay attention to it the most, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And do
Uh,
you like get like, I don't know, do you get inspired with them, or do you like
all the
sometimes?
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time. Because there are just so many talented, really hard-working drummers out there. Um, and everyone's a little bit different. And there's always some thing from a gig that I'll be like, whoa, yeah, I'll go and practice that. I'll go and, if it's a shuffle or some little fill that I've never really thought about before, or some, combination of sounds that it's never occurred to you to try before. I'll take
Oh,
that away from a gig and like store it in the bank. You know what I mean?
do you talk to the drummer and
Um,
ask them?
if they are there, you know, good show, man. You do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I don't know. You can tell when some people, especially like people who are on tour, you can tell whether they can be bothered talking. And most people will have a conversation, especially if you go like, "Oh, I really like that fill that you did," or um, "Can we talk about that groove
Yeah,
you were playing in that song? Because that's boss. I really want to learn that." So, um,
yeah, yeah.
but I tend to want to go to bed pretty early, so I've got gigs finished. So,
Well, do you ever get starstruck?
uh,
Like when you saw Mick, were
oh
you
yeah,
like, oh my god, Mick?
yeah, it's a bit like, oh my god. Um, yeah, I've had it with been lucky to meet enough really great musicians, and there are still celebs and whatever that, well, celebs that in my world, celebs
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
meet and you get a bit like, oh, I don't know what to talk about. Hi. Uh, but fortunately, I've kind of met enough people that I can kind of keep me cool a bit now. Um,
Do you ask for photos?
sometimes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So did you ask Mick for a photograph?
I think there is a picture of us with Mick from that first gig, uh, possibly, and
Yeah,
I've definitely
yeah,
got a picture with him now, because I've done a couple of gigs on cello now with Mick,
yeah, yeah.
the Elastic Band.
As
So
part of the last, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, the last time at the Invisible Wind Factory, you
yeah,
played
yeah,
you played cello with
yeah,
them. That was an amazing gig.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that gig because it was just so good. Uh,
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
like bucket list kind of
Yeah,
stuff
there's a TikTok.
to do those tunes in a massive crowd like that in Liverpool is like
Well,
it's the
how
highest you
did
can go.
you
You know what I mean?
practice for it, and
Um,
how did you get that like job as well, or that role?
that one.
Yeah.
So kind of through Martin, the trumpet player.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Martin
yeah.
Smith. So I play with Martin um, occasionally as a jazz drummer.
Oh
So
yeah,
I've
yeah.
known him for a while through like the Grapes pub where he plays on
Oh
a Sunday night.
yeah,
So I've
yeah,
covered that gig a few times because my drum teacher is does that gig. So I met Martin through that, and then he said, oh, do you fancy like coming to play with Mick at some point?
and you
And
were like,
oh.
yeah,
But it was really nice. Um, Ali, Mick's daughter, sent me
yeah,
through a
yeah,
set list of some tunes that Mick had picked out that he thought would be good for me to play cello on. So I took them. I knew the songs already, but I sort of prepared my own parts for them.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
some songs like comedy and um, especially on the new on Dear Scott. There's already like really good cello parts on there.
yeah,
Um, but then there's other songs that maybe there's a full string section but no cello part, so I kind of had to decide what to play. So I did that in my own time, and then I ended up meeting Mick and Martin in Martin's flat, and we had a jam, and that was amazing. That was like
were you
really cool.
were
I was
you
nervous, but um, I felt good about how I'd prepared for that thing because I had
yeah, yeah.
tools to prepare myself for something like that. Um, so it was a really efficient rehearsal. Um, so we had that, and then I had a full band practice, and then we did the gig.
Oh, that's really good. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I we were talking about, well, sort of like talking, but on Facebook, because one of the guys who went to see you and Mick had at that gig, we were just sort of like remembering where it was because your parents were actually near us as well.
Oh
when
right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah. Well, another thing that I would like to ask her is, do you know, of course, you know that I like having photos with musicians and
Yeah.
drummers, especially,
Yeah.
or cello player. So, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about sort of like fans coming up to you and saying, "Okay, I have a photograph," or "Can you sign this? Can you
Yeah. Yeah.
sign this?"
No, I mean it's just really flattering. I get a bit flustered every time because uh, it's quite it's just novel. It's new to me, um, and
Well,
sometimes it's a little bit surreal because
yeah, yeah.
I've only I've only ever been on the other side of it. Do you know what I mean? Um, and
As long as you're okay, as long as you're okay with it and you won't say no, I don't want
yeah,
photos,
no, I'm
right?
just really flattered, and it means a lot because it means that like someone was listening. You know what I mean? um, but it's nice to be appreciated. You know?
Oh, that's good. Well, so
Yeah.
because sometimes I do feel like, oh my god, I mean, especially the age gap as well. I mean, it's like too old to be asking all these young musicians for a photograph or something. It's like it's like with Nathaniel. Every time I see Nathaniel, it's like for another photograph. It's
Yeah,
like,
but I want to take a photograph with Nat every time I see him. It's one of them. Yeah.
well, right. Well, it's nearly sort of like 4 o'clock, but I've still got sort of like regular questions that I would like to ask you.
Yeah. Go for it.
Um, so you mentioned Neil Peart as one of your drumming
Mm.
heroes. Have you got any others or like drumming heroes?
Yeah. Stuart Copeland, like I said.
Mhm.
Steve Gadd.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
Um, Mark
But these
Juliana.
are
Pardon.
these are all like you classical or maybe not classical, but they're not like. I would say, I don't want to say young, because I was all like thinking, what about Rennie from the Stone Roses, or like.
I see. I've never really been a Stone Roses fan.
Oh, you.
They've never, because my parents aren't into it, so I've never really like. I obviously don't just listen to what my parents listen to, but I feel like because the things I was listening to when I was growing up had such an influence on me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think, um, to be honest, a lot of the drummers that I idolize and really try and learn from are mostly jazz drummers. So people like
Oh,
Tony Williams. Tony Williams played with Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock. Played
yeah,
on
yeah. Wow.
loads of classic, and
Yeah,
Elvin Jones as well.
yeah.
Um, Mark Juliana is a big inspiration as well.
And he's, well,
So
it's
he
like,
is he's another jazz drummer, but he most recently he played on Black Star. The um,
oh,
we've got,
David Bowie. David
yeah,
Bowie's. Oh wow.
yeah. So he played
Oh,
drums on that, and
yeah.
he's like super clinical, really good at doing the drums that sound like computers thing.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
who else? Chris Bear from Grizzly Bear is a big inspiration as well. I like drummers who write drum parts that are quite creative.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Because it's just like, jazz drummers are different. They're like different from rock drummers, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
I mean, it's like, I have been to like a jazz gig,
Uh-huh.
and I could tell that the way they play the drums is so different from like if you go to a rock concert
Yeah,
or
it is. It's so
well,
different. Um,
yeah,
the with rock drumming, your priority is like groove, backbeat. So it's all about kick and snare. You can get away with doing a whole gig with just a kick and a snare.
yeah, yeah.
But in jazz, it's all about like your ride cymbal and your hi hats
All right.
because you do that like spang, spangalang, 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 ting, ting, to ting, ting, to
Yeah,
ting,
yeah.
and then the thing on the hi hat with the 2 and 4.
Wow.
And you only use your snare and bass drum to like accent certain beats and
Yeah,
like, embellish what you're doing, but it's all about like your ride cymbal and so it's a very different way of playing.
yeah. Phil Murphy's playing.
Hmm.
He's absolutely amazing. He's a drum teacher as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you had any lessons from
Oh,
from
I should.
Phil?
I've got things to learn from Phil,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, another thing that I would like to ask you is, do you twirl when you? I don't think I've seen you do that.
I can't do it.
You can't.
No, I've always I always said to the lads in the band, like, do you know, I really wish I could do it. Because I wouldn't do it all the time, but I'd like to. I'd have the option, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I can't do it. I always drop the
Or
sticks.
have you actually sort of like practiced doing it maybe?
I've had a go. I've not put any. Maybe I need to put the hours in, the
Yeah.
serious practice hours. But
I have seen Phil Murphy do it. He doesn't do it too often, but
yeah, yeah,
I have seen him do it. It's just amazing when they do, especially so like when there's like a quiet moment and then they just sort of like do the 12
yeah.
and then it
It's
goes
so cool. Maybe I'll get a lesson on Phil on
on twirling.
well,
Yeah. What about I mean, I can't really ask you anything about cello because there's no such thing as twirling, and so like,
yeah.
oh,
You
maybe
can
there
just
is.
spin it round. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done
But,
that before.
when cello.
Yes, yeah. It's spinning it round on this bike.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wow. Oh, that's because it's a jazz. When you're in the sort like a jazz sort like
Oh, I've never.
band.
I've done it in. orchestras before. There's one piece where the cello section is supposed to like spin.
Oh, I
Anyway,
see.
I digress.
Oh, wow. Well, what about what I'd call like disasters or accidents? Have you ever had any sort of like drum drumming accident?
Disasters, yeah,
Yeah,
the
disasters.
loads all the time. The disasters get smaller and smaller as I go on. Um, the happens to anyone really. Uh, I have it now. I still sometimes get it now where I'm playing a gig and then I go like, "Oh my god, I'm playing a gig right now. I'm playing the drums. If I stop, then what happens?" So I have to keep going and like psych myself out of that.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I've dropped loads of sticks. I've missed beats. I've messed up fills. Um, I've come in on the wrong beat. I've done all sorts. It,
But it's but it's so like isn't it the drum it's the drummer who actually sort of like commands how the song is going to
yeah,
sort of
and
like
that's kind of the bit that freaks me out, really.
oh,
You know,
really?
because when I'm playing the cello, unless it's something solo or something really intense,
Yeah,
usually there's something else going on that I can,
so
especially like with the Astles gigs. If I get lost, I can stop playing. No one's gonna know that I wasn't playing, basically, because the other band is still going.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but playing the
But with
drums, especially
drums,
in like a pop band,
yeah.
if I stop, then that's it. You know what I mean? Um, even on the jazz gigs, I can pretty much stop playing the drums for a bar and get away with it
Oh, I see.
because there's
So,
enough happening and there's
yeah,
like push and pull. Um, but if I'm going on a breakdown gig and I stop,
yeah.
you know that's it. The gig's over. I'd probably get fired. Yeah,
Well, it's you're still with them, so
I'm still there.
obviously
Yeah,
you're not. Yeah, you've not done
yeah,
anything wrong as far as they're concerned.
yeah.
Um, so what would my last question is what would be your advice to aspiring drummers or aspiring cello player?
Um, practice. Get into the habit of practicing every day. That's that's my biggest piece of advice. Even if it's 5 minutes, because practicing 5 minutes one day is better than practicing
Not
for
doing
10
it.
minutes with a day in between. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. So you've got to sort of like do it every single day, even if
Yeah.
it's sort of like for a few. Yeah, yeah.
Even on the days where I'd
You
rather like
don't
tear
feel
my
like,
eyeballs out than practice,
yeah,
I'll force myself to do it, even for like 5 minutes. And then if I don't want to do it any more than 5 minutes, I just stop. But you got to keep that like fire going.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Of course, yeah, yeah,
I think that's obviously listening and getting into listening to other music is a huge part of it, but actually playing your instruments every day is paramount, I think.
oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant advice. That. So any new release from Brighttown or Astles?
Um, with both, it's cooking. It's in the pipeline.
Yeah, yeah.
With Brighttown, I think there'll be new music in
Soon.
maybe 4 or 5 months' time.
Oh, brilliant.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
being announced by the end of the year. But
yeah,
there's stuff cooking, and it's the same with Astons. There's stuff
yeah.
in there as well.
Well, do you want to just sort of like invite them to the gig in London? That's your next
Yeah,
Brighttown gig,
yeah.
right?
So the next Brighttown gig is at the Old Blue Last on the 17th of September. It's a Sunday night, and it's free
So
entry.
it's
Um,
free entry.
it's free entry. Yeah,
Whoa!
Yeah,
Gosh,
so there's no
London.
excuse.
So
It's
it's like
it's not really a school night, but it's Sunday night. You know,
it's a Sunday night. Yeah, yeah, and in London,
and in London. Yeah,
in London, and the Astros gig at the Philharmonic in December.
yeah,
That
yeah,
should
yeah,
be
yeah.
a really
That'll
good
be
one.
a really big one. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. I'm really
Thank
glad that
you.
you said yes to Ask the Drummer. And hope to see you. I'm not sure about that Sunday night gig in London, though.
Maybe
It
not.
would be a shame because it's especially if it's a free one, you know. But but hopefully, I'll see you either in Liverpool or Manchester
Yeah,
someday soon.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See
Thanks
you.
for having
See
me.
you. Yep, see you again soon.
All right.
Bye, Matthew. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live, and especially Boying. Thank you for staying up late. I know it's a weekday, but I'm really glad that you're here. Yeah. So next week, or well, not next week, but this Sunday, we're going to have another amazing drummer. So please do keep an eye out for the guest announcement post. And if you can, if you're anywhere near or in London or near London, do go and see Bright Town. It's a free gig and they're absolutely amazing. You're gonna enjoy them. And say hello to Matthew for me if you do go. And right, as always, love music, love life, love drummers. It's just absolutely amazing. And a drummer and a cello player as well. Yes. Wow. So see you all again next week. And bye for now. Bye.